Hey, it's been a while. Where have I been? Busy, burning out, redundant, but not laid off, and recovering. And so after a few months, I've finally felt motivated again, and I made this video in the midst of a midlife crisis. I'm re-recording the introduction to give it more structure and to emphasize the reflections and my intentions. So couple of things spoil the video a bit, but I hope you'll watch it anyway. So there's four main points in the rambling that's to follow. One, I love being an expat in Germany. Although I would earn more money in the US, I choose Germany for the quality of life. That being said, it's hard to be away from family, especially as people get older. Two, in my 20s, I put passion before income, which gave me experiences and skills that have shaped not just my personality, but also now my corporate career, which, saw me growing from being a designer of banner ads to, enterprise architect and more. It was all worth going into debt for. Three, money, money, money. I grew up poor and I have underlying anxieties about financial stability that affect me to this day. I was able to set that aside and pursue my passions, which brought me into debt. But I went into corporate in part so I could get out of debt and build wealth. And today it feels weird to have wealth and buying my midlife crisis car, especially with mass layoffs. Four, mental health. I started my career in tech and this channel out of passion, but as I've burnt out, I lost it. And in a weird way, being redundant has forced me to focus on recovering my mental and physical health. And so as you watch this video, the part about mental health, please know that I don't regret anything. As much as the experiences hurt, I am now more resilient because of that. And, I don't have a position at Microsoft right now, but I want to stay, not just for the corporate comforts, but also because of all the wonderful colleagues, mentors, and friends I've met along the way. And I mean that seriously. I've spent thousands of my own money to travel and meet them in real life in this post-COVID, no travel age. I'm still in contact with them months later, and I hope to be in contact with them years from now. So hopefully this won't be my last video. Enjoy, and see you in the next one. For you to understand my perspective, here are the essentials of my life. I grew up poor, a child of immigrants in Boston in the US, and I kind of left the country as soon as I could, studying abroad, in part to get away from an unhappy home. I went back, got my degree, and then came back to Germany. And ultimately, I never went back, in part because the quality of life, especially the social system, is just so great here. And I'm fine paying the high taxes. But I'm saying that as somebody who, works in tech. In terms of my career, I've done so many different things. So how I look at passion, I think, is different than some people who were programmers their entire lives. So many people don't know this about me, but I have a degree in economics and international relations, not computer science, which was always just kind of like a hobby. I made some money on the side when I was in high school, helping a program build websites, but I never thought of it as a career. Granted, this was the late 90s, early 2000s. When I decided to stay in Germany, I got a job as a web designer. But really, what did I do in my day-to-day is I made banner ads. And so for certain marketing campaigns, we need banner ads, this wide, this tall, etc. And that's what I did. That's how I kind of got my start. I moved into front end in part because all these designs that I envisioned, including, interaction, that's part of user experience, it wasn't executed the way I wanted it to be done. And I'm very kind of neurotic, by the way. So I learned front-end code. Before taking that job, I could do HTML, but I learned much more CSS and then JavaScript. And all of that is self-taught. As I kind of moved along in my career, if something didn't meet my expectation, my attitude was a little bit teach yourself and do it yourself. And so, of course, this led me on a path to be an entrepreneur in the sense that I think about 4 years after that first job, I quit. I quit and became self-employed. To pay the bills, I worked as a contractor for various smaller companies, including startups, to, yeah, on the side, finance my own sort of app idea that I had that was scratching an own itch that I had as well. And I started building it, but I never finished it. What I learned through all of that was I suck at being a solo entrepreneur because I'm so passionate about what I'm doing is I forgot to do the things that will pay the bills. So at the end of maybe like 5-ish years, I was in a lot of debt and my health was kind of suffering in the sense that I need stability. I grew up poor. Not knowing where next month's rent is going to come from is like, it stressed me out. I couldn't sleep. I had all these health issues, related to my hand or whatever. It's all stress related. So I took a corporate job. I think it was easy for me to take a corporate job, not just because I was desperate, I was, but also in those first, I don't know, what feels like maybe 10 years of my adult life and my career, I did so many things out of passion that I wanted to do. Some friends and I, we started a nonprofit in order to host a conference in Munich, UX Munich, which we did in 2013 and 2015. And it was such an amazing experience to be able to meet like my design heroes. Literally, for example, that poster is from Eric Spiekermann, who is one of the world's best typographers. So the fonts that you have on the Autobahn or the German Bahn and other things globally, they're readable whether you're standing on the platform or driving down the Autobahn at 110, 15 miles an hour because it's just so well done. And I love stuff like that. So that was maybe, I would say, the initial phase of my career. It was like, I did a lot of everything. I had a lot of different broad experiences. I was as well a kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I don't know. I'm not sure if that is a good, let's say, resume or skill set to have today, but it was back then. And this was 2016 when I switched to a corporate job. Having all those various skills and different perspectives made me a good fit to be an architect and actually a enterprise architect. So if we had a business idea, right, at the end you want to output an app or some sort of service, I had a good grasp of what that looks like from the user experience, including the design, front end, back end, and integration into existing systems. Allianz is one of the world's largest insurers, and even just Allianz Germany, which is where I worked, we had billions in profit a year back then. And so, yeah, it was kind of fun to be able to do all of that. Just sort of like, hey, you can zoom out and see the bigger picture. So 2016 was a great time to be at Allianz because they were just starting their cloud journey into AWS. So we could make stuff up, make lots of mistakes, burn lots of millions, but as long as we were learning, it was fine. And I really enjoyed my time there, not just because I could be on site and, get to know my colleagues as people, but I understood what we were doing and I could see kind of the end result of a product. That being said, why did I leave? Well, I left because Microsoft Recruiter approached me and said, hey, we're looking for different perspectives, right? I am the anti-Microsoft person. I've always used actually a Mac. I never used Microsoft Azure as a cloud. I know AWS. And so I felt like, okay, if I said no to Microsoft, it's Microsoft, I might regret it. So that's why I left. Okay, so let's switch gears into money for a sec. I went to a private university in the US, which is of course very expensive at that time, already about $40,000 a year. I got a lot of scholarships because I came from a low income household and I worked my ass off to pay as much as I could. I still graduated with a lot of debt, somewhere between 10 and 20,000, I think. So I was in the hole. Luckily, because I graduated before the 2008 financial crisis, my interest rates were low. So when I moved to Germany, I could focus on just getting established here. My monthly payments for student debt were affordable. Now, my first job, I was making banner ads. I was making okay. Like, I think maybe more than the average German because it's still like tech. I worked for a tech company. But definitely where I live in Munich, which is probably the most expensive city in Germany, nothing special. Now, when I quit to be a freelancer, I would say both my income and my equity, so my net worth went down, right? Again, that was me being terrible at managing money. I ended up taking even more loans to basically like fund my startup idea, whatever dumb idea. So when I started at the Allianz, my income shot up like a lot. And so a lot, I want to say, I don't know, it's been so long, but I want to say like definitely 50% to maybe even so like, which means I made 150% than what I used to make, or maybe even double. And what you don't see is that when you are now a full-time employee, you're actually also paying into the equivalent of Social Security, some sort of retirement fund. It's a government-based one. And yes, many people will say, like, will that even exist by the time you retire? But whatever, there's money going in. And so, like that was good. That felt good. But at some point as well, you realize how much other people are making. And I was fortunate to have a mentor who basically revealed some of those numbers for me. And when I switched into the enterprise architect role, that was probably, well, until I moved to Microsoft, the biggest income jump I've ever had, right? And it was like, 5 figures. And I'm so grateful for that because at the end of the day, it's just sort of fair. At this point, I started really paying off all that debt. So both student loans as well as the extra loans I took when I was a freelancer. In terms of my lifestyle, I think I have expensive hobbies like climbing. But I think the biggest change I noticed, right, and in part because as you grow older, your family grows older. If something happened in the States, so whether it's a grandparent or some other relative, I could easily just jump on a plane, right? Buying short notice flights are not cheap. And I was not able to do that in the past. I had important people in my life pass away, and I was in Germany. I could not go to the funeral. When I was at the Allianz, I could do that. That was one of the biggest sort of, let's say, improvements in quality of life where I say, money can't buy you happiness, but it definitely buys you peace of mind. Again, especially as somebody who's an expat living in a foreign country. So before I talk about money and working at Microsoft, I want to add that I had a burnout or two when I was at the Allianz. Burnout is never from the quantity of work that you have to do. Working overtime, especially someone like me who studied full-time and worked 30 hours a week, that's not really an issue. You burn out because of quality, right? Whether it's conflicts or other things, but it's something sort of a different beast. Now, I had more of that happen when I joined Microsoft, and I'm grateful for the resources at my disposal, both in terms of health insurance, which pays 100% for therapy, as well as what Microsoft offers, at least Microsoft Germany. And I had something, happen at work that triggered like a huge mental breakdown. And I tried the coaching for a bit and it helped, but I couldn't get past it, right? So I wasn't bouncing back, and definitely not bouncing back for good. There were wounds that just kept popping up and really affected my mental health. Now, what I can share publicly is you'll see in GitHub, I don't code anymore. I don't post. And that makes me really sad because I'm super passionate about it. If I look at some of those old videos, I'm snarky. I'm kind of funny. I make jokes that might be a little bit offensive, but I like doing that. And at some point, I lost that person. And, at that point, you ask yourself, hey, is this all worth it? Like, maybe I should just find another job. Thankfully, in Germany, you can take a break. I didn't take that long of a break from work per se, but I did decide to, start therapy. And I'm still in therapy, and it's probably one of the best things that you can ever do for yourself. So why did I stay at Microsoft if I was having all those challenges? Money. Quite simple. I spent what feels like 7 or 8 years as a failed entrepreneur. And so I was not building any savings. I was actually burning money. And if I compared myself with my classmates from growing up, or also from friends here who are also, from immigrant families and everything self-made, that cushion, I just didn't have it. I had a hole that I needed to fill. And so I'm still here. Another reason why I stayed at Microsoft was that I switched into an Azure engineering role where I worked with a lot of US-based colleagues. So it had the downside that I was often taking calls in the evening in German time, which affected my social life negatively. But it also had the upside that I could work from the US. And it was doable and easier to schedule meetings with my US-based colleagues. So I could actually see my family more often than if I were working at the Allianz, where I had to take vacation time and there's no or little no overlap with Germany. That's something that I still very much appreciate. Okay, some quick context for the graph below. The exponential growth of my net worth since joining Microsoft, that's not salary. It's not compensation in terms of bonus either. It's me actually just buying stock at an employee discount and maxing out pretty much every month what I can do, which is 15%. So I put away 15% of my income every month into Microsoft stock. And if you keep doing that, what is that called? Compounding? Yeah, so it kind of does that so I can do stupid things with the money later. So corporate jobs allowed me to not only build a emergency fund, but it also allowed me to build savings that I could use somewhat irresponsibly. So if good friends were traveling to Europe from the States, yeah, I could spontaneously buy a plane ticket, book hotels, and join them just because, they're childhood friends. I don't get to see that often. Or friends in Germany decide to, rent a house in Hungary. I can just drive over, do a little bit of, work from home, but also just, yeah, spend the money. Or COVID restrictions kick in and, I want to visit my German family sort of north of Berlin, which is about 6 hours away, and I didn't want to get on a train or a plane and potentially, spread the virus. So I could just buy a car, which is what I did. And looking back, I think the child Julie would have been like, that's so ridiculous that you can do that. And I paid off the car. And, I was mostly happy with it, but there was some nerdy IT person or just also, just child in me that wanted something better. It was a really nice car, but the navigation was slow and I wanted a full electric car. So literally I was debating and test driving various full electric cars, and I signed the papers for a Audi A6 on a Friday. Now on a Monday, and I didn't see the email when I started the day, but I had an email that included a vice president, HR, and our equivalent of the Workers' Council. And my friends asked me that week, they're like, okay, what are you going to do with the car? Are you going to keep it or are you going to jump out of the contract? Because I ordered a custom car, spec'd it to, everything that I wanted. And I was like, no, it's my birthday gift to myself, my, midlife crisis car. And I basically sold a lot of Microsoft stock to pay for, I think, about 3/4 or 80% of the 3-year leasing period. My monthly payment is so low, I can, leave Microsoft and take a significant pay cut and still just enjoy this luxury car. Now, the car cost nearly 100,000 euros, which is insane, but I wanted to do it just once. As a kid in an unhappy household, it was always loud. The only time I remember from my childhood where I could think was in the car, driving to my dad's restaurant north of Boston, and I had time to myself and I could hear myself think. So I love driving. And do I regret buying it? No, but it was a very stupid thing to do. So my notice did not say I was laid off. I am redundant. So the organization that I was in within Azure Engineering basically got rid of almost all virtual sort of offices or locations, and that was country specific in Europe, including Germany. So we were not part of the larger 6,000 people who got laid off, which was 3% of the workforce. And in Germany, the status that I have is redundant. So we're not laid off, technically still a full-time employee. I still have my badge. I still go to the office regularly to network. My job is to find a job. Now, when you're redundant, at least in the case of Microsoft, you have the opportunity to find another role, right? So you're already hired. If you're redundant because times have changed, you have the opportunity as well to reskill and upskill. So, for example, I could say, hey, I want to be an AI engineer, and I could take this time to learn to be an AI engineer. I'm not sure what I'm going to do right now, but I'm going to take you along on that journey. So I'm going to vlog a bit about this whole process because for me and for you, I would love to hear your feedback. Feel free to post something in the comments. Okay, I'm almost done editing this video and I would love to upload it this week. So in the closing, I really want to stress that I'm not staying just for the money. Like, I was at Microsoft for a while to help me sort of get out of debt and really build up some wealth, and I have way more than I need now. I've met a lot of great people at Microsoft, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm not just saying that, right, on camera. Like, I've spent thousands of euros of my own money to fly to and, stay in other cities to meet colleagues. Sometimes it's okay, I'm visiting family in Chicago, I can meet people, but a lot of the times it's my own damn money to buy flights and hotels for London, New York, Dallas, LA, Seattle, right? I was traveling in Asia a few months ago. I wanted to meet colleagues in Australia and Singapore, and that was all on my own money. So, there's a part of me that will really always remember Microsoft in a very sort of positive light. And yeah, I'm wearing this t-shirt now, which is kind of a coincidence. I don't have any more clean laundry, and I just came from the office gym. And one of the benefits of working at, giant corporation is we have a trainer and we have classes on Wednesdays to fix my terrible posture, which has contributed to some of the issues I have, including the tears in my shoulder tendon. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I hope to see you guys soon in the next one. I'm slowly coming back, slowly bouncing back, slowly finding that motivation. So, yeah, if you want to help, please subscribe, like this, add some stuff to the comments. I'm going to try to, I'll definitely read, but I'm going to try to as well answer any questions that people ask. All right, I'm rambling. Peace.